when we talk about pedestrian circulation, I think it's important to get a couple of things really clear from the get-go to make sure we're focusing on the correct issue here. I think point number one is, it is by no means and is not our intention to make it difficult for any business along here to have their guests access Disneyland. That is not the intention. I mean, obviously, it would not be in our best interest to make it more difficult for our guests to come into the park. So that's one thing we want to make clear. The second thing, and I'm not quite sure where this came from, but it was a concern that was brought up in a couple of different meetings, is there is no public funds of any kind being used on this bridge or on this project. Just to be clear, no public funds of any kind. So I just want to get those two items out right away. Having said both those things, there is a concern, and it is legitimate, that there is no elegant or easy way for guests staying in any of these hotels to access this bridge in this current configuration. Somebody would have to come out and walk around this way and go all the way up to the top. Go around this way and go all the way up to the top. So when we heard those concerns at the town hall on the 29th, we sent our design team back and said we need to look at all these different options, try to find some way to create what I would call a permeable experience between here and the Eastern Gateway, so that there can be a free flow of pedestrians between Harbor Boulevard and the Eastern Gateway. So the team looked at a number of options and ruled some for physical constraints, ruled some out for practicality, and ruled some out for safety and security reasons. And one of the concepts that we came up with, next slide please, that we presented at a town hall last week, is the notion of creating new access points for these individual businesses to have their guests directly access the Eastern Gateway project. So this image right on the left, just to orient everybody, this is all of the businesses north of the bridge. So you have a few hotels here, Quality Inn, Holiday Inn, Fairfield, McDonald's, Panera. These are all the businesses to the north. And the image on the right is all the businesses to the south, and I'll talk about them each individually. One of the thoughts we had, one of the ideas we had that we pitched to our neighborhood stakeholders is to redesign and reconfigure our support facility that we have located on the northern corner of the project, shift it downward, and then create a new pathway where they could have their guests access the project directly this way. And I'll talk about wayfinding in a second, because what makes this a very compelling thing is when you couple the revised wayfinding with it. So we don't know exactly how anyone would access this one location because of the property we don't control, but our thought was if we can create an access point and find some way for these businesses to access it, then they would now be able to take their guests straight from their property through here and access the bridge this way. And conversely, at night when folks are coming home and they're tired and they're coming over the bridge, their guests have now a much shorter walk. That was one concept we floated. Now, it was done on very short notice. There's a lot of technical and physical details to be worked out. There's obviously active participation from a lot of these property owners that would need to be done in order to even realize an idea like this, because you'll notice that we control none of this that's going on here. So we would need some folks to come and say, yeah, let's look at this more, and we can engage with them on a deeper level. To the south, the question is a little bit easier because you have a lot of these hotels and businesses that are lined up, backed up against the wall here, up against the walkway, which we saw in the video. And one of our thoughts here is to allow these businesses to, if they were interested, to create portals through their rear property lines so their guests could directly access the project this way, which puts them in a very unique position because now their guests have multiple ways to get to the park. And direct access to Disneyland is a substantial selling point. I can only think of one hotel in the entire Anaheim resort that has direct access like that, and that's Grand California. So this we thought was a winning idea, and we got a really favorable reception from quite a few of our neighborhood stakeholders on both these ideas, subject to a substantial number of technical details being worked out, because these are both technically complex solutions. And I'm pleased to report that we've gotten interest from some folks here in the north, and we've gotten plenty of interest from some folks here in the south who want to get themselves together And we've made our design team available to them, and we've got some meetings in the coming weeks where we hope to work out the details of this and see how we can get the best minds on this and solve this. Creating these pathways would create a permeable environment where pedestrians could free flow between Harbor and the Eastern Gateway very easily and very elegantly. Now, coupled with that, but wait, there's more. Coupled with that would be a wayfinding program. Now, wayfinding was one of the key comments that came out of our town hall, was the wayfinding was going to funnel so much traffic off of that stretch of Harbor Boulevard north of Disney Way and south of Manchester. So what we propose to do is completely rework our wayfinding program so that if we have these portals, we could do something like this. This is just it's concept only. We could do something like this where we call attention to Harbor Boulevard shops, restaurants, and businesses this way, resort access this way, to show people there's ways back and forth. And there was another idea out there about maybe putting directory maps up so we could show people there's ways to move back and forth across Harbor, there's shops, there's businesses here, so feel free to take either route you choose and move back and forth. Thirdly, on this whole concept of pedestrian, am I going back one slide, Elaine? Actually, 2 slides, I apologize. On this whole concept of pedestrian circulation, we've talked about creating this permeable environment here and here to allow these businesses direct access to the Eastern Gateway. We've talked about wayfinding, and the wayfinding coupled with the new pedestrian access points is a very powerful combination, because we believe that changes the conversation from how many people am I going to lose to how many am I going to gain. Because now suddenly you have nearly 7,000 cars here that are now going to know you're there, and they never did before. So we think that's a pretty powerful combination. Thirdly, on this whole topic of pedestrian wayfinding, I'm pleased to report that we had a very productive initial discussion, no commitments yet, with ATN about the concept of creating a Eastern Gateway circulator with some stops along Harbor and along Manchester, with a route that would run around here and give guests options. So they could come through one of the portals here, they could use the circulator to get around. There's multiple avenues people have if they're tired, and that's a discussion we look forward to continuing with ATN in the coming months, and we did have a really good meeting with them today. So that's the first 2 concerns, and I think that the next steps for us and the action items on that is we're going to keep working on it. We're going to keep working diligently, as we have been, with the groups that have emerged and have expressed interest in developing these shared pathways. We're going to keep working on that. Our design team is expending significant effort on that, and I look forward to showing you those results in coming meetings. That's pedestrian circulation and wayfinding. So the next